body other than the face itself.
There are, in fact, 4 different types of, what we think of as Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
Very wide, pronounced nose. There was also a very ominous odor.
Phase 1 is to identify opportunities. I walked into a small clearing in less than 10-15 feet away from this enormous creature, and it scared the living hell out of me. Phase 2 is conducting investigations both of witnesses and locations. The size of the thing, it was 4 or 5 feet across the shoulders. Phase 3 is profiling research areas, what's there, how they move, feeding, things like that. About 8 feet tall, I guessed around 800 pounds. It was massive. I had no idea that anything like that existed. Phase 4 is create an intercept plan. I decided to shoot in the air to see if maybe it would scare it off. Phase 5 is the intercept and resolve the issue phase. It didn't do anything, didn't react, and then I heard a noise from my right rear, and from out behind some brush come another one and walked over by the first one. That's when I decided to do what the dog did. I took off running. Welcome to Witness of the Unknown. Hello everyone. I'm talking with Nate tonight. Nate, how are you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm good. Now, we've chatted. You've got actually an update and a couple of witness encounters you wanted to relate. These are people who didn't want to talk themselves, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
The lady, she's an older lady, and she's a little hesitant to come on the show and tell her own story, but she gave me permission to tell it for her.
Okay. Well, I'll just let you go ahead and take the mic and go ahead and tell me what you're going to talk about.
Okay. Well, this lady is a friend of my wife's, and she has kids that's my age. So of course they're not kids anymore. But her encounter started when these children were probably 10 or 11 years old, and we'll call her Miss Jeanette because she didn't want to use her whole name. But her kids had this area. They lived at the end of a gravel road, and they had this area down near a pond that had a bunch of vines and whatnot hanging out of a tree that they would swing and play and do kid things. And they were down there playing, and there were several of them, and they all ran to the house, hysterical, crying, and all of them were trying to get in the door at one time. She asked them, Lord, what's going on? And they told her that a large, hairy man had approached them down there where they were playing. Well, she told them, no, it was probably this or it was probably that. And they said, no, Mama, it was a large, hairy man. Well, she sort of shrugged it off. She didn't really know what to think of it. But like I say, they lived at the time. They were building a house, and they lived in a double-wide trailer at the end of a long gravel road. And her washing machine was temporarily on her front porch. And she went out her front door. She had a sliding glass door, and went around to the washing machine to load clothes. And she looked up, and coming down this driveway, or this gravel road, was this creature. And she described it. And in fact of the matter, I showed her the picture of the creature that I drew, that I encountered, along about probably, it would have been a few years after this, but not very long. And she said, that's it. That's what I saw. So I'm assuming the distance was probably 6 or 7 miles from where I saw it. So I'm assuming it's the same creature, and I'll get into why I think that later. But this creature, it came down this road and turned into her yard, crossed her yard, and she said she was afraid to try to go back in the house because there was a few feet from the front of the washing machine to the front door, and she said I would have been exposed, it would have saw me. So she said I just squatted down behind the washing machine. And as she was squatting behind the washing machine, this creature comes up to the front porch, right around beside the porch, passed within 5 feet of her, evidently not knowing she was there, and right on around the house into the woods. Well, I asked her, I said, was this the only time you ever saw it? She said, no, I saw it a lot. And what they had a pond down there close to where the kids played, and she would come up over this ridge and down to that pond, and a little while later she'd go back up that ridge and over the ridge. And she said one afternoon she saw it and a shorter one significantly shorter and a little darker color. She said she didn't see him come down, but she saw him going back. So I'm assuming either a juvenile or a female. Well, I asked her, I said, what did he look like? And she said, it looked like a big, hairy man. She said it was a human face. Said the face didn't look apish at all. But the reason that I think that this creature was probably the one I saw, as you know, anybody's familiar with my encounter, the creature that I saw never at any time made me feel threatened. Now, we were buff charged the night before twice, and I assumed that was a different creature because the behavior, I'm a behavioral guy, and the behavior was so much different the night before and the one I actually laid eyes on. But the behavior of the creature that approached her kids was very much like the behavior of the one I saw. It was more interested in watching and observing. It didn't seem to mind that they knew it was there. The one I saw didn't seem to mind that I knew it was there. But it went out of its way to leave the impression with me that it meant me no harm. And that's the impression that these kids got. I mean, it scared them, but years later, as they discussed it never offered to bother them.
Mm-hmm.
So she said that the creature was gray. The one I saw was gray. The size was about the same. So, I'm pretty relatively sure, because of the geographics of the area, it's probably the same creature.
Right, and it was fairly close, so more than likely it was.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was. And I already have on good authority from the old guy that lived in the cabin that there was more than one creature in that area. Of course, what we know now is they travel in family groups, but what we knew then was not, or what I knew then was not so much. All I knew is I saw something.
Right.
But she said that the whole time they lived at this place, that she saw this creature on a regular basis. Well, let's fast forward to present day. My wife and I were down there the other night, and when I took this interview, and I was talking with her about where she lives now. Because where she lives now there's a greenway basically from where I had my encounter right to where she lives now. There's one road to cross. So I got talking with her, and she's heard wood knocks where she lives now. She's heard screams where she lives now, and something is slapping on the side of her house. And she didn't put two and two together that this could even remotely be the same thing, because she knows very little about the subject. And I told her, I said, the whole slapping on the side of the house thing, I said, that's textbook Bigfoot behavior. I said, the wood knocks that you hear, she said they were loud and sounded like a baseball or a baseball bat hitting a ball. And I said, well, that, I said, we're not completely sure why they do that, but it's some type of communication, probably having something to do with hunting. I said, that's the general consensus. And she said, well, she said, I hear that a lot. And she said, I hear the screams a lot. So I did tell her that if she experienced a slapping on the side of the house again, that it didn't much matter what time it was, call my wife and we would try to come down there. We ran a little thermal and didn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we weren't there long, and it was raining. It was real foggy, and thermal tends not to work quite as well in fog.
Sure.
So we didn't get anything, but other than the testimony, and now this lady was feeling what she was saying. I mean, I am well satisfied that every word of it was the way it is, and the description she gave. And then when I showed her the picture, she would just bounce and point. Yeah, that's it. She was excited.
Right.
Because she had never talked with anybody really other than my wife that knew, anything about or would even sympathize with what she saw. Most people are like her husband when she told him, he was from, well, that ain't what that was, to you saw a bear,
Right.
General
Trying to explain
general reaction. Right. So that's something that I'm going to look into a little bit as the opportunity arises. Now, my wife and I, the other night, we go a couple times, we go regular. I ain't going to say a couple times a week. But sometimes we don't get to, but we go ride the back roads, and I drive and she runs thermal. And we went off in the valley. We basically circled the valley that I do most of my research in. And we made a circle around and came up a road on the other side of the mountain called Yellow Bluff. It's just it wouldn't even be a secondary road. It's pretty well untraveled road. And we was coming up the mountain. She told me to stop. And we got really good thermal on a creature down in a ravine that there were a lot of rocks around it for size comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out of the truck and I walked around with the other thermal on the other side of the truck. And I thought I was looking where she was pointing. And evidently I wasn't, because I panned to my left and it took my breath. What I saw took my breath. And I've had a daylight encounter that didn't affect me the way what I saw down there did. It was huge. It was squatted down, and it seemed to be rocking from side to side.
Mm-hmm.
And is it maybe trying to get a better scent of me or a better look at me up there on that ridge?
Or agitated at your presence?
It could have been agitated at my presence. It was probably 75 feet lower than me.
Mm-hmm.
So on a 45-degree angle. So that would give you an idea about how far away it was.
Okay.
At 75 feet lower and on a 45, that's probably 100, 120 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And when it would rock from side to side, it was squatted and rocking at the same time. And it would push with it what would have been its left leg. It would extend that leg when it moved to its right. And wheel that leg at the ankle was as big around as my thigh.
Wow.
And I weigh 295 pounds. And I watched it, and it was moving towards us. and another pickup come around the curve, and I was going around to shut my door, and my wife thought I didn't see the pickup, so she screamed, "Watch that truck." When she screamed, it changed directions and started moving up the draw towards the top of the mountain. And when I got thermal on it again, and I watched it, and when it stood up, it was probably 9 feet tall.
It must have been a little, a little unnerving seeing something like that in the dark.
It is. I mean, I had my thermal on black hot, and I could, my thermal, it defines well the trees and whatnot. You could see every rock in the ground, and you could see the perfect shape of it. Now, my wife saw it standing up before I did, before I ever got out of the truck, and she could see basically between the V between its legs, and she said that the V between its legs was in other words, the straddle of it was really off the ground.
Right.
So it was big. It was really big. And the next night, Jay and I, and Mike Parker, another guy on my team, went down to the same place. We made basically the same circle, and we saw nothing. We went back to this place, and we saw nothing, but we did get, I wanted somebody else to have an idea on the size of it compared to the rocks. Well, this thing was as broad. It probably, it's the back. I've got a 2010 2500 Chevrolet. It was probably as broad as my truck bed is long. Of course, mine's a short wheelbase, but still,
that's pretty good size.
6 feet.
Right.
That's 6 feet. And it was, and like I said, it was moving towards us until that other truck came around the curve, and she screamed, and it changed directions.
That's interesting.
That's what I thought. But before we went down to that place, we went over to Miss Parker's, where the creature's been roaring at her out of the bamboo thicket. We went over there, and what we got there was really interesting. We found a piece of bamboo, probably 2.5 inches, and it was, and you know how hard bamboo is.
Oh yeah.
It was broken off at one of the joints. It looked almost like it had been sawed off, but it was broken off at one of the joints. At probably, it was a little longer than I am tall, and so that would have made it probably 6.5 feet long. And the root ball was still on one end of it, so it had been pulled out of the ground. Now, I grabbed one probably 2 inches and I'm going to pull it out of the ground, and I couldn't budge it.
It's pretty tough to pull that stuff up.
It is. And I'm a pretty strong guy, and I had a hold of it, and I pulled with all I had, and I couldn't budge it. You might could rock it back and forth to loosen the roots, but that didn't appear to be what happened. It appeared to just been pulled up.
Pulled it straight out, yeah. I've seen that with other trees.
And there was little gray bird feathers all over the end of it. I thought that was really interesting. It looked like it had killed a bird with it.
Well, could be. Could very well be.
Well, at Miss Parker's house, beside her garage, there was a bird. And I asked, I said, what color was the bird? She said it was gray.
Oh, wow.
So I'm wondering if we got maybe, it took the cat manure off her porch. And she's since stopped putting it out. But I was wondering if that was some type of attempt at gifting, maybe.
Or maybe it dropped one. It could have killed, a number of birds. Maybe it just dropped one.
Yeah. Well, that piece of bamboo was laying there, and those bird feathers were all over it. And we got the piece of bamboo and brought it with us. uh, we snooped around in that bamboo pretty good, and we got some thermal hits, but never could figure out what it was. In that bamboo, there is a lot of places where it's been pulled up by the roots, and it looks like the roots has been chewed on. Now, I know I have read that apes will bust open bamboo and chew the insides of it.
Oh, no, that's interesting, yeah.
But I don't know if the roots have any kind of food value to them or not.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out, or medicinal value or something like that.
Well, it was a lot of them laid around, and there were some broken they were all big, pretty good sized bamboo. So it takes something with some strength to be able to break it.
Right.
But the most interesting thing we found, there's a tree there, and there is some pretty large bamboo. I mean, the tree is right in the edge of the bamboo thicket. And there was a piece of bamboo stuck in behind another piece of bamboo, wrapped around that tree, around that other piece of bamboo, back through it, around the tree, around that other piece of bamboo, back through it, the length of a piece of bamboo. Just wrapped round and round and weaved in between that tree and other pieces of bamboo. It was crazy. Now, it took something with strength and with thumbs to be able to do that, but something that also with mental capacity to be able to, it was, I don't know the purpose of it, but it was making a design with it. I mean, it went the same way every round that it made. And now, a human by no means would have been strong enough to wrap that bamboo around there like that. But we found a few others where it had started between other pieces of bamboo doing that.
Did you take pictures of all that?
We did. We got pictures.
It'd be interesting to see that.
I'll send you a picture when we get through. But we also went up in there where I told you those bedding areas was.
Right.
And evidently, it has not been using those bedding areas. So I'm thinking where I went up in there when I put the voice recorder out.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it was in there then.
Probably saw you doing it.
And yeah, and I think it's pretty well stayed away from there since.
Right. Right.
She hadn't got growled at in a while, but she's quit going out after dark. Once it gets dark, she stays basically in the house.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Well, she's concerned about it. Now, she still won't mention, and she won't say to anybody else that it's a Bigfoot. And she's never seen it. But I told and you know how I am, I'm very slow to say to somebody Bigfoot.
Right.
I gather my evidence, and when I can't come up with another answer, then I will say, okay, this is what I think you have.
Sure.
But I try to exhaust every other possibility before I go there.
Yeah, and that's the right way to do it.
And so I was pretty slow to say that that's what she had, but I'm and she's convinced. I told her, I said, there's none of this behavior that's happening. None of these things that's happening around your house. Nothing about it says bear. Nothing about it says person. I said, there's only one thing. To wrap that bamboo like it's wrapped, it takes strength.
Right.
I put a piece of bamboo across my back and wrapped my arms around the ends and tried to break a piece of it, and I could bend it the size that was wrapped in, woven in around those trees and bamboo. I could put a curve in it when I flexed, but I couldn't break it and I couldn't bend it, not like it was being around this tree.
Right.
So I took a piece of it and I put it in the receiver hitch on my pickup. And I was able to get out on the end of it on about a 6-foot piece. I was able to get out on the end of it with it stuck in the receiver on that truck and break it. But there wasn't a receiver on that truck for it to wrap that bamboo around.
No.
Whatever this was strong enough just to wedge it between a large piece of bamboo and a tree and just start wrapping.
Yeah, just brute strength. Mm-hmm.
And all the pieces that are pulled up, because in that area where the bedding area was, those pieces were pulled out because there's no stop sticking up. There's no root ball. It's just smooth ground. Where the rest of the thicket is, there's a piece of bamboo every 18 to 24 inches. You couldn't, and then there's these two big places that are cleared out. But like I say, I think it stopped using those once I went in there. I almost wished I hadn't went in there now. Of course, I don't want it where it's at. I don't want it at her house. I would rather it have been somewhere else. But by the same token, I would like to study it a little more.
Right.
But we looked around and we had about decided that there was nothing there. Well, we went and made that circle, riding the road and looked down there where I got thermal on that thermal hit. And we went back and dropped Mike off because the lady that's having the encounter over there is Mike's mother. And when we dropped him off, Jay said, well, let's walk back down there and see what we get on thermal again. I said, okay, let's do it. So we walked down there, and we're looking around, and he gets the thermal on what looks like a head sticking up over these bushes.
Mm-hmm.
Or these weeds. But the only thing about it, we didn't know how tall the weeds was. Whatever it was, when two of us got down there, and it was comfortable watching him. But when I moved over there where he was, then it moved away. And we never heard it move. We never heard it go away. It was just gone. But where it was on the ground was a pretty large heat signature.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so the size of the heat signature, it had to be either sitting or squatting. And we went back, or Jay went back the next day, because that's when I broke my foot. He went back the next day by himself and got to look at those weeds in daytime, and they were chest high. So whatever it was, squatting down was looking over weeds chest high.
Oh, wow.
So it's, it's a pretty good sized guy. And from where this is at to where the lady's getting slapped on the side of her house is getting slapped is probably 3 miles. And there's the same one road that it would have to cross. It's a pretty well traveled road during daytime hours. But at night, there's not so much traffic on it. And it could easily move between all these places without being sighted 99.9% of the time. So I still hold with my theory on it being a young adult male.
Right.
I just think, now, I'm not sure about the lady that gave me the encounter's house, what's going on there yet. But I'm pretty sure at Miss Parker's, it's one creature. I found the track wave that come up beside our game camera, and every track that I have found down there, every impression, everything that appeared to be a track is basically the same size.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't got a castable print down there yet, but
hey,
that's a problem that
Just a quick note on the bamboo. I pulled it up online and was just taking a look while you were talking. One of the things that kind of stuck out to me that could be something they're doing is bamboo is good for upset stomach. And you see dogs, eating grass and things like that. A lot of animals will eat things in nature, when they have upset stomachs. So, it's speculation, of course, but it could be maybe that's what it was doing.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I was going to Google that last night, and I went to sleep before I did. I took the medicine the doctor gave me for my broke foot, and I wound up going to sleep early. But I didn't get to Google it last night, and I was going to do that. Yeah. I'm glad you did. That's very interesting because...
Yeah, there was a number of other things it was good for, but, that's kind of the one I think in nature that would most likely be the cause of them chewing on something like that.
Well, those roots were chewed off. Now, I would like to be able to get a piece of that bamboo up to see what the root ball looks like when it comes out of the ground.
Right. Do a comparison.
As to how much has been chewed on this particular root ball. And I have a post puller to pull a T-post, like a fence post. I'm going to try that and see if I can pull a piece up with it. Because I'm real interested to see how much of the root ball they're actually eating.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
I don't know. I know the thermal that he got. I didn't get to see it, which is nature of the beast. Very seldom, Sure. By the time you get somebody else over there to look at it, they're usually gone. But the thermal that Jay got at her house, like I say, it was looking over those weeds. And when he went back down there is an old building off in the. I would have to go. I might to draw you a picture to show you how the lay of the land is, right, and send it to you. But there's a pond, and then at the end of that pond, woods begin, and right in the edge of those woods, there's a building that a guy used to use for storage. And that building, now we were there one night and I had on my parabolic ear. I had my earphones on my parabolic ear on. And the problem with the parabolic ear is you're hearing everything. Mm-hmm. Anything, if you got it pointed in a direction, you hear things a mile away that sounds like it's close to you.
Right.
But the problem with it is it masks sounds up close to you.
Right.
It's hard to distinguish what's near and what's far. So this sound I completely missed. But Mike and my wife both heard it. And the only way they could describe it was a deep growl. And it was probably less than 100 feet from us. And I didn't even hear it because it's mixed in with all the other sounds that I'm hearing. It is I was recording, so it's going to be, if I got a guy trying to clean that up now, if he can clean it up, that growl will be on this recording. But that growl was probably it was in the same area that Jay got that thermal every night. It was a little deeper in the woods, but it was in that same area. Now, right there at that building, I've heard something and I checked the tin on the side of that building. The tin is still tight, but there was something pushing on the side of that building, and you could hear the tin pop as it would push. Well, I leaned against it pretty hard, and I didn't make the tin pop. It's tight enough that I couldn't do it. But I checked that building out. Really, there's no way it could be getting in there without tearing a hole in it or tearing a way in, and that hadn't been done. So it's not staying in the building.
Right.
But I am pretty sure, like I say, everything that I've found points to it being one.
Right.
And points to it having a hard time feeding itself. It don't have anything helping it. It don't have another creature helping it hunt. Mm-hmm. So things like the birds and the cat poop and things like that.
Eating weird things.
That tells me that it's having a hard time eating. So I don't know if that could be potentially a dangerous situation, or maybe it'll just move on.
Yeah, it's hard telling at this point. I mean, you almost have to wait until something more happens to give you an indicator.
Yeah. being how it's at her house, I really wish it would move on.
Mm-hmm.
I would give that avenue of research for her a little peace of mind. I wished it would move on.
Right.
Because she should have pretty shook up about it. I say she's in her 70s and she lives by herself now, so it's pretty unnerving situation to her.
Oh yeah.
But I told her same thing. I tell her, Mom, if anything happens, call me. We will come. There is another encounter over on Sand Mountain, which is probably where it's at, probably 45, maybe 50 miles from here. There has been a lot of encounters over that way. It's in the Mentone area north of Talladega National Forest. But there was a road crossing. And there's the guy that called told me about it, had he friended the person on Facebook, and the guy got back in touch with him, and he's supposed to call me and give me that encounter, but he hadn't called yet. But they saw it cross the road. They told me Sylvania Gap, which is, he described the lay of the land to me. I've never seen it, but it's pretty well. It's a gap between two pretty large ridges in a wilderness area,
mm-hmm.
and it crossed right at a creek. And a man and his wife saw it, so it ought to be a pretty good encounter when I do get in touch with them to be able to take it.
Yeah, it sounds like it will be.
Let's say there's a lot of encounters up there. It's in the Rainsville area. If you want to look it up after a while and see where it all took place. Sylvania is probably 10, 12 miles from Rainsville, Alabama.
Okay.
And all that up in there is pretty remote. There have been, I read an encounter that happened last year at a campground at Mentone, and all this is in the same geographic area. Probably within 20 miles anyway. And there have been a lot of encounters. This is the first avenue that I've had to have opportunity to look into any of them.
Sure.
I'm not familiar with the land, but I am looking into it.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I was just taking a peek on Google Earth to see what it looks like.
Have we spoke?
What's that?
Yeah. Have we yet? That we went to.
Are you there still? Okay, there you are. You're breaking up just a little bit.
Have we spoke on the town hall meeting that we went to yet? I know you and I have spoke about it.
We did. We haven't discussed it really yet. But yeah, go ahead if you want to bring that
up. The BFRO had advertised a town hall meeting in a little place down at in Bankhead Forest. Now, Bankhead is probably the biggest national forest we have in this area. I mean, it's big. And we went down there, not expecting much. And when we got there, it was standing room only. Well, for the first probably 30 minutes of it, they discussed, there was a lot of hecklers there. But they didn't stay long. And at the end, as it got 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour into it, everybody there was serious with some kind of encounter. Some of them spoke of them, some of them didn't. And Jay and I started talking with them, and we made a lot of contacts. Some people that wanted us to come down and look into some things. Of course, it's deer season down there, and that's a major area for deer hunters. So that's going to have to be after deer season.
Right.
But you know, I've always, I've asked you the same question, but I've questioned how am I having this much activity all of a sudden when I haven't had this much activity and when there hadn't been this much activity in years.
Right.
And evidently down there it has been ongoing for a long time. It's like common occurrence down there. It's something that most everybody knows about down there.
Right.
Of course, everything down there is just real small little communities. There's no towns down there.
Sure. Not going to be a lot of outsiders.
Right. But they showed up for that town hall. The guy that put it on, I was not real impressed with. He didn't. I asked a few questions and just sort of to check him out to see where his, what his level of knowledge was, and I wasn't impressed with that. Of course, I'm not even going to mention his name, but
Sure.
I'm not one to do that. But I asked some questions that are pretty commonplace in the JRG that were completely over his head, to the point he didn't really understand the question.
Wow.
Like for example, we asked her, how many types do you think we have around here? He said, well, there's some gray ones, and there's some white ones, and there's some black ones. I was like, okay. Alrighty, William. Well, that was completely over your head. Let's go another route. And one of the guests there asked how many creatures he thought was in that area, and he said,
reasonable question.
He said, we estimate that there's about 200 in the state of Alabama. So I couldn't help myself. I raised my hand and I said, what method did you use to come up with that number? And he said, well, according to sightings and reports and this and that, and what it amounted to is he couldn't bring himself to say, I have no idea how many's in Alabama.
He was just making up a number to look good.
Yeah. I mean, we have no idea.
Exactly. There's no way of knowing at this point.
There's no formula for it. There's no, for every encounter that comes to light, there's probably, I would say, at least 10.
I mean, if you're going to cite witness accounts, you got to have enough information to identify individuals, and even that number is only going to give you, a number based on these reports. That doesn't give you a population size.
And for you to even have something real solid to work with, you would have to have every encounter.
Exactly.
And for everyone that's reported, there's probably at least 10 that's not.
At least, yeah, right.
For everyone, and I'm being conservative with that number. I'm just, I'm throwing 10 out there because being conservative, there's at least 10 that nobody ever hears about.
Yeah, I used to use 20.
That they only tell.
I used to use 20 as a number, kind of a guesswork, but I think that was fairly accurate, in the areas that I worked.
Yeah, well, it probably is here.
And it could be more. It could be more, could be less. Who knows? I mean, it is kind of guesswork. But, from talking to people, now I got my number kind of based on talking to witnesses who did talk to me. And they would tell me, well, I know this person or that person, or I've heard of X number of stories around, but people won't talk. So I would make notes of that, in the witness report that I'd write up. And I started getting an idea that there was between 10 and 20 people who wouldn't talk for everyone that did. And that was based on what the witnesses themselves said, having knowledge of other people who've seen things. Like, you hear a lot of times somebody will say, well, my brother or sister-in-law or somebody saw one, but they'll never talk about it. Things like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll use this meeting, for example. Now, I know 4 times while I was at that meeting, I would strike up a conversation with a person, and they would almost be laughing about it. And I would say, well, I would break into the conversation easy. And then the next thing you know, they would come back around and say, well, I did see this. I ain't told anybody because I don't want people to think I'm crazy. Basically, they was laughing about it to me because they didn't want me to think they were crazy.
Right.
And then when I broke the ground and gave them a little comfort zone to work in, then you could tell they really wanted to tell somebody.
Right. Or sometimes people will act one way if there's other people listening, and then when they talk to you privately, then the truth comes out.
After that meeting, all the people that was there, and the guy kind of got pissed about it, I think, but most of the people after the fact, they were standing around to talk to me and Jay, and wanted us to come down there and look into this stuff rather than the BFRO guy that was there.
I guess it sort of backfired on him.
Well, I know this. What I just tell you is real numbers. Mm-hmm. I know this to be a fact. It came from somebody that is part of the BFRO. He told me that he went to their part of the website that the investigators can look at.
Mm-hmm.
There was 120, basically 3 pages of them,
mm-hmm.
of encounters in the state of Alabama that has been reported to the BFRO. Right. That has never been investigated. Nobody has ever been contacted about it. There has never been any kind of follow-up whatsoever.
And you know what's interesting about that? I've had quite a few people across the country that have sent me emails saying the same thing. They reported it, and the people seem to not care.
Right. Well, nothing is any better than the people running it.
Sure.
And they are, fact of the matter, the guy that gave me that information, he is a serious investigator.
Mm-hmm.
He's legit. But what kind of ratio do you have between the people that's legit and the people that are basically just that have no idea what they're doing and don't follow up,
right.
What's the ratio between a good investigator and a bad one? I guess what I'm trying to say.
And it's a tough business. This subject is very tough. And I think a lot of people are interested. They jump in thinking it's going to be, kind of a simple thing, and then they find out that it really is very difficult.
Right. And what I'd like to stress to the people listening, is to let somebody, whether it's us or anybody, let somebody know when you have an encounter. Make it known. And like I say, I hope it's us that they send it to, and we will do our best to get somebody to look into it. But you will at least be contacted.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we will contact you, and we will, if we have anybody that we can get there, and we have investigators spread around the country, pretty sparse. There may be an area that we don't have somebody in, but we're growing.
And we do have people that will go out of their way. If a place is relatively close, but if it's a bit of a distance, they'll still go there.
Well, Jay and I, we travel a good bit, and if there is anything, work permitting, we'll get there and look at it. I was contacted by a guy that listened to one of the shows that we were on, and got my email, and emailed me from Calhoun, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have anybody around Calhoun, Georgia now? He's interested in being a JRG investigator. I'm going to check him out a little bit. He would like to come over and investigate with us some, and I told him, well, when we get cranked back up good after deer season, I said, I'd be glad to have you. And when he comes over, if I like what I see out of him, we may recruit him. He seemed like a pretty level-headed, legit guy. So we'll see where that goes. Because I think North Georgia is pretty much hot spot.
Yeah.
It's in the foothills of the Appalachians, and geographically there's no reason that it wouldn't be a hot spot.
Right.
Everything's there for it. So we'll see how that pans out. But
and that's something we're always looking for in our investigators. So anybody listening, if you want to be a JRG, which is Jevning Research Group investigator, then I'll be posting email contacts. So folks out there, you can contact the right people in the right part of the country, and we'll get you set up.
Jay he's Southeastern director, and I help him with it all I can because right now he's traveling a lot with his job.
Right.
But we will, if they can't get a hold of Jay, all they gotta do is call me. I get them hooked up. And investigators, legitimate investigators that have a passion for this subject. That's what we're looking for, and that's what legitimizes what we're trying to do. People that take their job serious.
Absolutely.
And the collection of evidence, and take the pictures. Don't just compile the evidence and try to come up with an answer.
Right.
That's personally what I do. I try to come up. I see activity, I see behavior. And I'm all about the behavior. So what I want to know after I establish behavior is why are they doing that?
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of, sometimes I get a little too much wrapped up in that. But, there's got to be there's a reason these creatures do what they do.
Absolutely.
And when you figure out why they do what they do, then you can, you'll know more where to look for them.
Exactly.
You'll know, you'll be able to recognize a potentially dangerous situation to and right now, we're stabbing in the dark.
Right.
Because for everything we think we know about these creatures, there's hundreds of things we don't.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're about. Let's find out. And to do that, you got to have people that communicate, and people that are passionate about what they're doing.
Right.
And,
well, listen, Nate, we're running a little short of time. Very well said, though. That is exactly what we're looking for. And also people with a little bit of a skeptical outlook on things.
Yeah, you've got to be skeptical for everything you look at. Start out from a skeptical point of view.
Absolutely.
Prove that to yourself. As don't take it for granted that that's what that is. Prove it to yourself.
Yeah, don't jump to conclusions, but go through, right. And eventually, it'd be nice if we could, adapt some scientific method to what we're doing, so that science can actually utilize what we're doing in the future.
Right. Well, we've got people in the scientific field ready to take the evidence that we collect.
We do. Yes, we do.
So we have the resources in place. Now what we need to hear from the people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're here for. But far as they can contact us through you or every investigator we've got. They've got individual email, and we'll be glad to talk to them.
And when I post this, I'll put a bunch of contacts in the comment section, or yeah, I think that's what it is. So that if anybody wants to contact one, and I'll put the region of the country, so that, you know, if you happen to, something is going on, or even just questions, if you have questions, you know, by all means, contact our people and ask away. You know, we're not about hiding information, so you know, get a hold of any one of us and ask anything you want. Join up if you like. You know, become part of the search.
Well, you know, Jay and I, we go pretty well anywhere in the southeast that they have, that there's, and you know, if time permitting, we would travel further.
Yeah.
But Georgia, Tennessee, North South Carolina, Kentucky, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Georgia, Oklahoma, and East Texas. We'll be glad to try. You know, we'll have to schedule it with our jobs, but I don't mind traveling.
Yeah.
And
then, of course, the different regions of the country help each other too. It's like I need to put you guys. I know Jay is, of course, being the regional. He's, you know, in touch with our Southwestern regional director as well. But I think all of you would work really well together. And then, of course, you know, we have folks in, you know, the rest of the country as well. Not just the U.S., but we have people in Canada. We have people in Europe. We have people in Indonesia and India. So we're pretty well spread around the planet.
That, you know, I think and I ain't blowing on home, but I think we're the most reputable research group available to the people that's actually having the encounters.
Mm-hmm. When
you contact us, you will talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
Because we will call you. It won't be an email back and forth and back and forth. We will call you. We'll do our best, and we don't have all the answers, but if you ask me a question I don't know, I'll try to find it out. I'll call somebody that might know.
And that's the thing. See, we've got the network of people all over, and we all talk to each other frequently. So you're right. If somebody has a question and somebody doesn't know the answer, then they'll reach out to the rest of us, and we'll come up with the best answer we can.
Right. Well, all right. I appreciate it, Will. And
me too.
I just love these. I love these talks.
They're good. I enjoy them, and I certainly appreciate your work and the updates. Fascinating stuff. You know, keep me posted on what's going on there.
I will send that picture of the bamboo just as soon as I get off the phone with you.
Okay.
You'll get that in a few minutes.
And I want to mention too that, you know, we used to do the blab chats, and they weren't very good because we kind of overtalk each other and stuff like that. But when Blab went out of business, of course we had to quit doing them. I've had quite a few people ask if we were going to do the group chats again, and that's something I'd kind of like to redo. I'm looking for a platform that'll work good for that, and a moderator, somebody that will actually kind of, you know, make it a little more professional, you know, doing a roundtable discussion. So that's in the works. And I've mentioned that Brian and I, we talked yesterday. Brian and I do a weekly chat, kind of like what we just did. And I want to start doing live call-in shows as well. So there's a number of things that we're putting into place. You know, I'm working with some professionals in Los Angeles. One of them sent the graphic, you know, that's I use on the YouTube page. But so there are some big things coming down the road in the next year or so. So you know, keep your eyes open for those things. There's stuff happening, changes that are being made, good changes.
Yes, definitely. Well, alrighty, I'll let you go, and I'll get that picture to you in a few minutes.
All right, Nate. Well, thanks again. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That piece of bamboo, I think you'll agree, is one of the most interesting things I've seen in a while.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
It took some serious thinking to do it.
Right.
I was really impressed. I showed, Jay and I were looking at all those that were pulled up, and he's like, man, that's interesting. I said, you think that's interesting? Come here. Look at that. He looked at it for about 30 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, it's that interesting.
Well, I can't wait to see it.
But alrighty, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the JRG.
Well, thank you, Nate. I appreciate you too, buddy.
Alrighty, we'll see you, man.
All right, you have a good night now.
You too.
Thanks, everyone, for joining me this week. Be sure to tune in again next week as we explore another account from a witness of the unknown.